What happens when nearly 1 million people lose power at once, temperatures plunge toward minus 45 degrees, and the world's largest economy is forced to slow itself down by weather alone? At least 10 people are already dead, over 20 US states are under emergency declarations, and the storm is still moving. The question is not how severe this system is, but what it reveals about vulnerability in a country built on constant motion. In the next few moments, the stakes become clear. If this storm fades quickly, the damage will be counted in days and billions. If the cold persists, infrastructure stress compounds, emergency services thin, and political accountability sharpens. If these events become more frequent, the issue stops being meteorological and becomes systemic, reshaping how governments plan, insure, and protect populations across vast territories. This storm system did not emerge in isolation. It is the product of a stretched polar vortex, a mass of low-pressure Arctic air that normally circulates tightly around the North Pole. Under certain atmospheric conditions, that circulation weakens and elongates, allowing frigid air to spill south across North America. In this case, the cold air followed a powerful winter system that dropped snow, sleet, and freezing rain across much of the United States, creating a multi-day compound crisis rather than a single weather event. By Sunday night, states of emergency had been declared in at least 20 states and in Washington, D.C. Power outage tracking data showed more than 840,000 customers without electricity, concentrated heavily in the southern United States. Tennessee alone reported over 300,000 homes and businesses without power after ice accumulation brought down transmission lines. Louisiana, Mississippi, and Georgia, regions historically less equipped for prolonged winter storms, each exceeded 100,000 outages, highlighting geographic disparities in grid resilience. The human toll has been immediate. In New York City, 5 people were found dead outdoors over the weekend during sub-zero conditions. City leadership framed these deaths as a stark warning about exposure risk during extreme cold, even as investigations continued into their precise causes. In Texas, authorities confirmed 3 fatalities, including a 16-year-old killed during a sledding accident. Louisiana's health department reported 2 deaths linked to hypothermia, underscoring how cold stress can overwhelm even regions unaccustomed to winter extremes. Transportation systems, a core artery of economic stability, have also been severely disrupted. Major airports in New York, Philadelphia, and Washington canceled nearly all flights for the day, stranding travelers and halting cargo movement. Road travel was strongly discouraged across multiple states as freezing rain created impassable conditions. When mobility slows at this scale, the effects ripple outward, affecting supply chains, labor availability, and emergency response times. At the center of the response is the National Weather Service, which has consistently warned that conditions would persist into Monday and beyond. Forecasts indicate that an Arctic air mass trailing the storm will keep temperatures dangerously low for days, especially across the northern plains and upper Midwest. Wind chill values are expected to plunge to minus 45 degrees Celsius, or minus 50 Fahrenheit, levels at which frostbite can occur within minutes of exposure. This event also sits within a broader scientific and political debate. Researchers have observed that disruptions of the polar vortex appear to be occurring more frequently, though the extent to which climate change drives this trend remains contested. Atmospheric warming in the Arctic, combined with natural variability, may be altering jet stream behavior, increasing the likelihood of extreme cold outbreaks at lower latitudes. While consensus is not absolute, policymakers are increasingly forced to plan amid uncertainty rather than clarity. What if this storm marks a temporary anomaly rather than a pattern? In that scenario, federal and state governments focus on recovery, grid repair, and emergency funding, then gradually return to baseline preparedness assumptions. The political consequences remain limited, and infrastructure investment proceeds incrementally, shaped more by budget cycles than urgency. But consider an alternative path. What if prolonged cold events like this become regular features of winter across North America? In that case, energy grids designed for historical norms face repeated stress, insurance markets reprice risk, and emergency management agencies operate in near-continuous response mode. States in the South, where heating infrastructure and housing insulation are less robust, face disproportionate harm, widening regional inequalities within the country. The international implications should not be overlooked. The United States remains a central node in global trade, finance, and logistics. When severe weather disrupts airports, ports, and rail networks across multiple regions simultaneously, the effects extend beyond national borders. Delayed shipments, interrupted manufacturing schedules, and volatile energy demand feed into global markets already strained by geopolitical tensions and supply chain recalibration. There is also a governance dimension. Emergency declarations activate extraordinary powers, unlock federal assistance, and test coordination between local, state, and national authorities. Repeated large-scale emergencies can strain public trust if responses are perceived as slow, uneven, or politicized. At the same time, effective crisis management can reinforce institutional legitimacy, particularly when clear communication and data-driven decisions reduce loss of life. As the cold deepens, the immediate focus remains survival and restoration. Power crews work against ice and wind, hospitals manage exposure-related injuries, and shelters attempt to accommodate those without heat. Yet beneath these operational challenges lies a strategic question about adaptation. Infrastructure built for a 20th century climate is being tested by 21st century volatility. In the days ahead, attention will turn to temperature records, outage duration, and mortality assessments. Less visible but equally important will be policy discussions about grid hardening, urban planning, and climate risk modeling. Whether this storm becomes a footnote or a reference point depends on what follows. For viewers watching this unfold, the key signals to track are not just snowfall totals or wind chills. Watch how quickly power is restored, how emergency systems communicate risk, and how leaders frame responsibility once the crisis passes. Extreme cold, like extreme heat, is no longer only a weather story. It is a measure of how power, preparedness, and stability hold under pressure in an increasingly uncertain world.